on YouTube.
All right, cool. Want me to kick it off?
Stand by.
Standing by.
Go ahead.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of AUSN's Navy Now webinar series. Today, we're joined by Master Chief Paul Dillon, head of the AUSN Nautilus chapter in Connecticut. As you all may recall, he spoke about retired activities officers earlier this year for our webinar. Today, he's going to be talking about retirement benefits and navigating the retirement process. Thank you for joining us once again, Paul.
Well, hello, everybody, and it's a pleasure for me to be able to sit in my home and talk to you about what I've learned as an RAO director. The slide presentation that I put together is basically designed for those that are transitioning into the retired life, but there are also some slides in here that will benefit those who are retired. So stand by, I'm ready to roll.
All right. Well, and I sent this email out to our members. There should be a link there to the presentation. You can follow along with us. It's also posted on our website, so just click on that and follow along. And we'll also show the slides right here. So, Paul, take it away.
Okay, next slide. So, one of the things I do here at the Person Finest Submarine Base is occasionally I'm invited to do a TAPS class. And you saw the slide that just came up before this one. It said important. And I always ask the question to the class, what is important? And of course, like today, they're silent. But it's reviewing your DD-214 because absolutely it's the most important military document you'll ever receive. But you have the honest to make sure that all the information that you're submitting is correct. So that's one of your requirements, one of your responsibilities. Make sure your DD-214 is correct and so forth. So let's have the next slide, please. So there you go, check for accuracy and so forth. So I thought you'd like to see what the distribution is of a DD-214. There are actually 8 copies made. You're going to receive as a future retiree copies 1 and 4. Number 4 is the most important copy because that's the one that has all of your information. And that's the one you're going to use to feed to a prospective employer, to the VA and so forth. However, the VA is going to have a copy of the DD-14 anyway. So make sure it's correct and so forth before you accept that DD-214 in hand. So let's have the next slide, please. And of course, you don't want to lose it. And believe it or not, as an RAO director, I frequently receive calls, how do I get a copy of my DD-214? So you don't want to lose it and so forth because, as you can see, it's a very important document. So let's go on to the next slide and I'll tell you how to retrieve that DD-214. It's simple because if you're retiring as a new person, obviously, you want to enroll in the ebenefits.va.gov. You register there, and once you have a premium account, you'll be able to obtain your DD-214 at any given time. If not, if you're an older guy like me and you're retired already and you're looking for your DD-214, one of the things you do is you log on to the archives in St. Louis and you request your military records that way. However, I have to tell you right now, because of the COVID-19, they're pretty much limited in what they're doing. They are issuing DD-214s for emergent issues, for example, like a funeral. And believe it or not, many of the reserves that are retired from the reserve program, and they did not mobilize for more than 90 days, and that's cumulative time, not like 2 weeks here and 2 weeks there. Unfortunately, you're not going to be issued a DD-214. So we're working on that. Hopefully there'll be some legislation down the line that'll allow reservists to get the DD-214 for the service that they've done. Next slide, please. And again, right now, as I mentioned, our National Archives is pretty much shut down, but at some point in time, if you need a copy of your service record, or you want to know, for example, how many medals did I really get? And I'll tell you a little story about myself. A couple of years back, I decided to test the National Archives, so I sent a standard Form 180 via mail to the archives saying, hey, look, would you please review the medals that I received in my active service? And I forgot all about it. And probably about 6 months later, there was a box in my mailbox. And guess what? My medals, including 2 that I did not realize that I had earned while on active service. So that's a thing that you folks could remember. National Archives, service record, health record, whatever you need in that from your military service, it's there for you, but it's going to take time to obtain those particular items. Okay, next one. Okay, if you're viewing this, I'm hoping that you folks belong to MyPay. And we all know that when we get paid, it's all delineated in the slide and so forth. But MyPay is a very important way to control your pay. For example, we're coming up to the end of the year. In December, you can actually log on to MyPay and download your 1099. And think about it, if you didn't have MyPay, you're going to have to wait for the snail mail to bring you that document. So that's one of the advantages that I like about MyPay, but it also lets you control. You want to change your beneficiary, you want to change your address, MyPay is the way to do it. So anyway, take a look at if you're not registered and register. Next. And for the active duty people that are transitioning, I should say, your active duty account will remain available for 13 months following your separation. And when retired, you're going to see an additional menu for accessing your retired pay. So as it says on the slide, all your allotments and so forth are going to populate automatically to your retired pay at DFAS. Next. Okay. And for those little techies out there that have a smartphone, you may or may not know, but there is a MyPay app on your store, if you will. So you can download that, and it's a very useful tool that you can use from your smartphone to get your information from DFAS. Okay. Now, very important, the information contained in this slide, your role in maintaining a healthy retired account. You must advise DFAS of a change in contact information, for example, your address, your phone numbers, and email. And more importantly, changes of status, your marriage, your divorce, children, graduation, death. I can tell you, for example, many issues that I've handled here at Subbase of the RAO, with DFAS, we find that the folks have not kept their information up to date. And that causes quite a few problems when time flies by. So make sure you understand it's your responsibility to keep DFAS up to speed. Next. A little trivia. Oh, we went by that one really quick. AOP. What is an AOP? It's arrears of pay beneficiary. And what that means is that on our accounts, we have a beneficiary, but arrears of pay, that relates to if you pass away, who your beneficiary is, you're going to get your final paycheck, if you will. Military retired pay stops on the day of the death of the retiree. And I got to tell you this, that I have dealt with cases that the retiree has not changed his beneficiary. Like, for example, in the case of remarriage, DFAS has no choice but to pay that first spouse, regardless of the new spouse. So making sure that you have your AOP beneficiary up to date with DFAS is extremely important. Okay. A little trivia, customers 2.9 million and so forth, and MyPay retirees, only 55% of retirees use the MyPay website, if you will. And the annuitants, those that are widows collecting survivor benefits, was 12%. So you can see that there's still room for the MyPay folks to increase in the numbers. Okay. Now, another one that you're required to keep up to date is DEERS, the Defense Enrollment Eligibility Reporting System. And of course, we're all registered in DEERS and so forth and so forth. Once you retire, you got to make sure your DEERS reflects your change from active duty retiree status. That's going to happen automatically because you're going to get a new ID card that automatically enrolls you in the DEERS or updates your DEERS thing. The same thing with your dependents. When you retire, you want to make sure that they also get new ID cards. That will update their status and so forth. So it's important. And remember, DEERS, so to speak, controls the TRICARE system. So mistakes in the DEERS database are going to cause mistakes in the TRICARE database. So again, another requirement, another responsibility whenever you have a change and so forth, the status. Okay. Next. And of course, the DEERS has a toll-free number. It's listed on the screen. And you should update DEERS, again, retiring or separating from active duty. That will be automatically done when you do your ID card activation and so forth. But if you're getting married or divorced, you need to do that. And particularly if you have a child over 21 that's going to school, you may want to make sure that that DEERS is up to date because, again, it affects the TRICARE eligibility. And of course, moving, becoming eligible for Medicare, the death of a sponsor or family member are required to be reported to DEERS. Okay. Final military move for those that are transitioning to the retired life. You have up to 1 year to, and it's home of selection, not home of record. Some people get that confused. You have 1 year to make that last move to the home of selection and so forth. So you want to maybe log on to that website that's listed on the top of the screen to give you more additional information on your final military move. Okay, Kate, I'm ready. This is what I said, typically 1 year on the limit for getting that move done and so forth. And you can actually store your material up to 1 year as well. But there are exceptions, and exceptions might be a medical problem and so forth. But in order to get that, you have to contact your personal goods office on your base. All right. In medical records, you want to make sure that when you're retiring that you go to your military treatment facility and get a copy of your record, and not only your record, but your family records, unless you're staying in the area and staying with that particular military treatment facility. So you also want to know that the original record is sent to the VA Regional Center near your selected home of residence, along for your application of service to connected disability. And we'll get into that in a moment. Okay. The same thing, but basically after 3 years of inactivity at the military treatment facility, your family records will be transferred to the National Records Center in St. Louis. And that might be difficult to retrieve in a timely manner if so needed. So make sure you have copies in hand of your family's records. Okay, basically that's what we said before, so we'll just keep going on to the next slide, Kate. This is a little known fact. Hearing aids at DoD cost retirees and spouses. In the event that you're not eligible for VA health care, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, that in some point in time in life you need hearing aids, you can check with your nearest military treatment facility. And if they have an audiology department, you can ask whether or not they see retirees. And in the National Defense Authorization Act of 2015 authorizes hearing aids to be issued at cost to dependents. However, for example, here in Groton, Connecticut, the clinic we have is only seeing the retiree and not the family members. However, 40 miles away at Newport, Naval Ranch Health Clinic, they are seeing dependents for issuing hearing aids too. So it's a great program. You can buy a quality hearing aid for about $400 or $500. All right. And just speaking of hearing aids, I mentioned that a little bit ago about the VA. If you are enrolled in VA healthcare at any given time and you need hearing aids, then you go to your VA clinic and so forth, and you'll be automatically issued hearing aids at no cost to you, and that includes batteries and etc. But you have to be in VA healthcare in order to get that benefit. Next. Servicemen group life insurance, veterans group life insurance. You must know that if you're retiring, you have 240 days after discharge to enroll in either one. I mean, the VGLI, rather, I'm sorry. You already have the SGLIs, but anyway, you must enroll within 240 days after discharge to get the benefit of veterans group life insurance. And one thing about it, you can go ahead, next slide, please. I'll talk about the spouses right now. Spouses on active duty are enrolled in the SGLI, Family Service Group Life Insurance, and they can convert their insurance to individual permanent plans by going to private, participating private insurance. And the website listed below will show them how to do that. And again, there's some restrictions on this one too, that you have to, within 120 days of the following events. But right now, spouses and dependent children are covered under the Family Service Group Life Insurance while on active duty. But that stops when you retire. So take a look at that benefit as well. Next. And that's a little thing about the SGLI. Remember, the VGLI. Remember, you can get from $10,000 to $400,000 in life insurance benefits based on the amount of SGLI coverage you had when you left the military. Very good program. And it's term insurance. For example, most of you are retiring in your 30s or 40s, late 30s or 40s and so forth. You can buy $400,000 worth of life insurance. Again, term insurance at a very reasonable rate. Every 5 years, that benefit, you can elect to decrease the amount and therefore managing the amount you're paying on a monthly basis. So you might want to look at VGLI as well as the SBP program as we move along with that subject coming up shortly. Okay. And this survivor benefit plan we just talked about, remember you have to, if you're married, you have to have your spouse's written consent to make the appropriate choice on SBP. So it's a good program. There's a lot of changes over the years to the program, but I can tell you right now that being an RAO director, when I have to notify a spouse that the husband did not enroll in SBP and there's no record of VGLI, it's sort of a hard chore for me to do. But so take a look at these programs that are available to you when you get ready to that final retirement date. Okay. That's just a little information on the survivor benefit plan that we won't really go into. You are eligible to cancel in the third year of retirement if you do elect SBP. And the question is, why would you want to, cancel your SBP? But there are reasons. So you are eligible within the 25th of the 36th month to cancel and get out of SBP. But remember, it's an exit. So, and again, you have to have spousal concurrence if you decide to do that. Roger? And there's some deadlines that are for the SBP program. If you click, we'll see what they are. if you've never had a spouse coverage before you get married, you have 1 year. That 1 year is the thing about coming into an SPP program. So they're pretty well self-explanatory. Okay. Now this is for the reserve program, reserve component survivor benefits. The reserves have a similar thing, and right now it's an annuity that they can enroll in once they get their letter, I think, of eligibility. So you want to click, Kate, on maybe the enrollment, blue button, enrollment.
Roger.
Moving up.
Yeah, we'll see if this will load up for you. If not, of course,
Here we go.
this is on the slides, so you can check them out yourself anytime. But let's see if it loads up.
All right, well, that's not coming up, but
There we go.
there it is.
Yep, we see it.
Can't see that very well, but that's actually taken off the DFAS website, so that's a good website to get a lot of good information as a retiree. So anyway, if you're in a reserve program and get your 20 years in and going into the gray area, take a look at the reserve components survivor benefit program. Okay, let's go on. So the bottom line, retired pay stops with the death of a retired military member. So just remember that. And I have to tell you, folks, you don't have to be old to pass away. I personally have handled cases. Have a neighbor down the road, 4 years retired, passed away. The saddest one was 1 year retired and 9 children. And guess what, folks? No SPP and no VGLI. So take a look at these programs. They're there for you. And they're not that expensive. So I'm ready to talk to the next slide. And this is the dependents indemnity compensation. Basically, a lot of folks don't know what DIC is, but if a retiree dies from a service-related disability, the spouse is eligible for the dependents indemnity compensation. And I think right now it's about, $1,300 and some odd dollars a month, tax-free. And there's a special survivors indemnity annuity tacked on by Congress, and that's $300 and some odd dollars. The total payment to a widow under the DIC concept is about $1,600 tax-free. Up until this year, SPP was offset by the DIC. So for example, if a retiree's SPP to his spouse was $1,000, well, the DIC would offset that and she would not get that portion. But the NDAA of 2019 rescinded that. So now the spouse is going to be able to get 2 commencing in 2023. Next slide will show that. So basically, like I said, the survivor benefits are going to be fully restored to these widows, and they'll be getting a pretty good pay raise in 2023. Right now, it's going to be a phase-in starting in January 2021. So any questions on that, you can get in touch with me. I'll be glad to explain it further. But remember, a retiree passes away from a disability, the spouse is eligible for DIC. And I have to be perfectly honest, the VA is not going to tell you that. That's why it's important that the spouse knows about this benefit. And you can deal with your local retired activities office for assistance in filing for that claim. Thank you. Next. And of course, burials and benefits and so forth. Retirees and veterans themselves are eligible to be interred in national, state cemeteries, or even a private cemetery and so forth. So that's one of the benefits that's out there if you so elect to go that way. And I know the state of Connecticut has a beautiful state veteran cemetery in Middletown, Connecticut, well maintained and so forth. And the cost to get there, you have to bear the cost of transportation, if you will, of the remains. But once there, you're interred in a beautiful plot, well maintained and so forth. Next slide. So you want to go to the VA, and if you have a VA disability, for example, there are burial benefits financially that you might feel a claim as a survivor. There are certain restrictions, for example, cremains. I don't believe that they pay for those, but if whole body, then you can look at those benefits for claiming financial help in the funeral. Okay. And just some of the things you're entitled to, you know, the popular one is the marker that goes on the foot of the grave. I often get, in subbase in London here, I often get calls about burial at sea. And at one time, these were handled out of Groton, going out on a submarine, if you will, but somewhere along the line, the Navy decided that they would take that out of Groton and put it like in Norfolk, Virginia. However, anyone has an interest in burial at sea, take a look at the toll-free number and give them a call for planning purposes, or you can log on to the website listed up there at the top of the questions part. Okay. Just a little trivia that the Army is proposing, as you probably know, they're limiting the number of burials there and so forth, and they're talking about no full body, if you will, just cremains apparently at one time. So that's coming because they're running out of land. So they just put that up for a little trivia. So, you know, Arlington is, as you probably already heard, running out of space. Next. Okay, TRICARE. We're coming up to open season. This doesn't really articulate that well, but open season for TRICARE is starting. It's going to be November 9th through December 14th. And if you are just going out into the retired life, you have a 90-day window to enroll in TRICARE. So remember that 90 days is as your magic number. Don't let that slide by to enroll your family, you and your family, in the TRICARE benefit. And there's a new one coming up. And if you go to the next slide. Oh, I don't have it on there, but jumped ahead. But the TRICARE Select program is changing this year. Heretofore, it did not have any enrollment fees. This year is moving, I mean, next year is moving into an enrollment fee. I think it's $12.50 for a single person, and I think it's $22 for a couple. But you have to enroll in TRICARE Select and be ready to pay that monthly or annual fee. Those that are going to be retiring, going to be taking their health care physical, I should say, their separation physical. And you want to log on to that website for a moment, Kate?
The top one?
Yeah.
The top one, yes. Okay, it's called a separation health assessment, and how it works is all delineated there on the slide. But one thing you're going to be filling out is a form 2807, I believe it is. I can't really read that, but why I wanted you to look at the slide is if you're going into retirement and you're having a physical, make sure your physician has that form that he's checking out, asking you the questions about your overall health. Why? Because that's what's going to go to the VA to determine whether or not you have any service-connected disabilities. So that's why they wanted you to see this particular thing, the 2807-something. I can't really read it, but here it is, 2807-1. Report of.
Yep.
So, all right, Kate, we can go back to the other side. As I move over and get out of the sun. I put this up even though it's a 2018 slide, simply for you folks to take a look at, because you've got to understand that the TRICARE program is a great benefit. And you can see this again, 28, but the difference is, of course, it doesn't reflect the select charges here, but anyway, the TRICARE Prime cost is $600 a year now, but what your employer provided fees will be, unless you got a great employer out there, you're going to be paying out of your pocket for your health care in the civilian world while you're, employed. So take a look at that benefit, TRICARE. Okay, next. And this is what I said earlier about the TRICARE changing, and that's the select benefit, which before we didn't have any enrollment fees. And the Defense Health Agency said, hey, failure to pay means loss of coverage. So again, take a look at that program, TRICARE Select Enrollment Fees. You got to understand that TRICARE Prime is based on where you live. You have to be so many miles within a military treatment facility. I think it's 40 miles. If you live outside the 40 miles, you're not really eligible for the TRICARE Prime. But so that's why I'm saying take a look at the Select program. Get your health coverage. It works. All right. And just again, some of the prices of 2020. I don't believe there's any increase in TRICARE prices for 2021. I may be wrong on that, but my understanding is no, other than the Select, there's no change in the TRICARE Prime. Okay. And just some of the, we all think about Humana, and I forget who's out there on the West Coast for healthcare, but there's another one out there, the U.S. Family Health Plan, that gives you another option other than the Humana program and so forth. However, if you're in the U.S. Family Health Plan at age 65, you have to drop them because they're not carrying you into 65 and plus years. So take a look at those other plans. They might be the best for you. All right, thank you. Dental care, we all know about it. If you're newly retired and so forth, however, it's a different type of window. You probably want to enroll between 31 days prior to your military retirement, but no later than 60 days following your retirement. That's the window. Normally with TRICARE, you have a 90-day window, but with a dental program, you have a 60-day window. So take a look at that benefits.com website. If you want to go there, Kate, take a look. One of the things they have on this website is a tool on the stream right there that you can actually compare prices of the different carriers of the dental program. Like, for example, there's Delta, there's some others out there, but you can compare the prices before you actually enroll. So you have a choice of who you want to have your dental insurance with. Okay. All right, we can go back to the and of course you have resources after retirement, of course, military welfare and rec, and of course the judge advocate for typically they'll take care of retirees in a matter of preparing wills, simple wills, not complicated. They don't do trusts, but also powers of attorney. That's a very good benefit. These are free of charge, and they do some consulting on a limited basis. Another one is the Navy Marine Corps Relief Society. If anybody gets into a financial jam and so forth, and I know here in Groton we even have a visiting nurse that will meet with retired families and etc. But those are some of the resources you'll have after retirement if you live close to a military base, particularly a Navy base. Okay. And your benefits. We get to the VA portion here. I put this in here because unfortunately there's so many, I'm going to say veterans themselves, not just retirees, they do not know the benefits that the VA is offering to them. So we'll go to the next slide and we'll start a little bit of the VA issue here. Now, this is a welcome kit. If you want to open that up for me, Kate, I'll just show them. But it's a very good website to let you know as a veteran. Now you're going to become a veteran. What your benefits are, not only for you, but for your spouse and families. And it shows you how to print it out, but if you scroll down and so forth, it's just down here, so like where you are right now for veterans, you just click on one of those things. There you go. So just, it's a very valuable website, and I encourage you to take a look at it when you have a moment. And that includes for the folks that are retired as well. They've been out there for a while. Okay. You go back to the main. Okay, so something new the VA is doing. Newly service members can expect 3 calls from a VA representative in the first year of separation. So they call you up and they just want to know how things are going, if you need any help from the VA and so forth. The VA has dramatically changed since I retired 40 years ago. It's a great service they're providing now to veterans and so forth. So stand by for those phone calls that'll be coming in. And again, they will not ask for any financial information or anything like that, but and so forth. They're not scammers. They're actually real people asking you how you're doing as a retiree, as a veteran. Okay. And of course, the most important thing about applying for benefits, that you work with an accredited Veterans Service Officer. And where do you find these folks? Well, like here in the state of Connecticut, we actually have folks that work for the state of Connecticut Department of Veterans Affairs, as most states. I think all of the states have a veterans group, if you will, that provide services to the veterans. So, but make sure it's important you work with a VSO, not necessarily a VA rep. But anyway, we'll go on to the next slide. This is a little matrix here. If you want to click the service connected matrix. I know it's going to open.
There you go.
Okay, there you go. I'm not sure if you read that, but you want to go and look at that particular website. If it's service connected, and gives you some of the benefits you have, in addition to getting a disability check. For example, do you know if you have a VA appointment that you can claim the mileage that you traveled to and from your home to that particular activity? That's one of the benefits that you have. I personally am enrolled in VA healthcare, but I use them once a year. And what's my once a year appointment is for my annual physical. So you have to do at least a 1-year visit to keep your healthcare with the VA. But there are certain benefits for doing this. For example, I mentioned about the burial benefits because you have to be in VA healthcare. I mentioned about the hearing aids. You have to be enrolled in VA healthcare. So take a look at that. It's another benefit that's yours and well earned. Okay. Next. Now, this is the 180 to 90 days before you leave the military. You can actually, it's called BDD, before discharge disability. You have to have this claim in before that 180 days to be sorted out and rated for disability. So remember that time frame, 90 days. If you click on that website, you'll find out how to file and so forth. No, the wrong one. Got to go back to the other one. It's not going to open? Okay.
Oh, we'll open it real quick.
Hold on. Loading. There you go. Got it.
There we go.
There you go. So that will give you the information, this particular website, on how to file that pre-discharge claim. But before you actually walk the plank, if you will, for your final retirement, you'll know what your disability rating will be. Okay? Okay, we can go back out of that. Just wanted to let the folks know that it's out there for them. Decision-ready claims. This pertains to folks that have a disability. However, in the course of years, the disability rating, disability problem has gotten worse. So you do this decision-ready claim, but you have to work with an accredited veteran service officer to help you file this claim. So that's the clue. Remember, you got to have a disability. For example, let's say you have hearing loss. The VA gave you 10%. Well, over the years, your hearing has gotten really, really bad that you can't even hear with a hearing aid. Well, you put this claim in for a decision-ready claim to get an approval for a better rating. So take a look at this one as well as you get older. All right. And this is just a little map I put on there because a lot of people live in areas and say, well, where's my nearest VA medical facility? So top link there will bring you to a particular, local VA clinic or hospital or what have you. Next. Okay, how does the VA disability compensation affect military retirement pay? And I asked this question again, silence, but go to your next slide, you're going to see that. VA compensation, okay. You're going to waiver unless you get 50% rating or more. You're going to waiver your military retired pay to get the VA dollar for dollar, so forth. You don't really lose any money, but it's like paying for your own retirement. Your own VA disability. So you have to get to the 50% mark to get the concurrent retired disability pay, CRDP. So you want to take a look at the next slide? Can't see that very well, but just to illustrate. I'm not sure we can go. Illustrate, for example, if you're rated at 40%, you're gonna waiver, your retired pay to get the VA disability. And remember, the other thing about VA disability, if you're rated at 10 and 20%, you cannot claim your dependents on that claim. But once you hit 30%, you claim your dependents and you get a little more money in your disability pay, and it's tax-free. And you can probably, and it's another thing that everybody should know, that VA disability ratings are not always permanent. When you first go out and you're disabled, you're going to be probably required to have an annual comp and pen exam. Typically, you have to go to a VA clinic or a hospital to have this exam, and you get examined for your disability. If there's any change in it, you may get a decrease in your VA disability, or you may get an increase. And also remember, as a change in your family status can change your VA disability payment. As I said, from the 30% rating up to 100%, you can claim your wife and dependent children up to 18. So if you lose a child and he goes off to college, I should say, he's no longer your dependent or she's not your dependent. So you have to tell the VA that because they'll catch you and they'll get the money. And I put VA healthcare, maybe. Why did I say maybe? There are 8 priorities of VA healthcare. And I think we go to the next slide, Kate. And the 8 Priorities are based, as you can see, your military service, your disability rating, your income level. That's where the income level comes in, priority 7 and 8. If you actually make too much money, and I forget what the threshold is, unfortunately, I should have had that for you folks. The VA is simply going to say, I'm sorry, you're not eligible for VA healthcare, believe it or not. And of course, you got some other issues there too. So what are some of those military service histories? For example, I had a shipmate who got out of the Navy after 4 years, and he went to work for a company, and he retired probably about 4 years ago, and apparently he made pretty good money, because when he went to the VA to sign up for VA healthcare, because his retirement from the company did not include healthcare, they told him, I'm sorry, but you're not eligible because your income. And I told my shipmate, you go back and see that veteran VA representative, show him your DD-214, and show him where you have your Vietnam service medal. That makes you group 6 regardless of income. And the same thing goes for you folks that are retiring now. If you have a Afghan or Iraq campaign medal or service ribbon or whatever, that puts you at group 6 regardless of your income. So remember that as you go forth into your retirement life. Okay, next slide. This is something special, combat-related special compensation. And you can go to the next slide, Kate. In order to be, what is it, first of all, combat-related special compensation? If your disability is a result of you serving we'll get to the slide here which sets up the criteria. But anyway, if you serve in a particular thing, like, for example, Afghan or Iraq, so forth, and that's where your disability comes from, you can put in for combat-related special compensation, which means you waiver your retired pay to get this benefit, but you're not going to lose any money. Your money becomes all tax-free and so forth. So we go on to the next slide and I'll tell you a little more about next. Go ahead. So training simulates war and so forth, hazardous duty. But it's a benefit that's out there, combat-related special compensation. You don't lose any money, if you will, but it becomes tax-free. And you can, okay, and you have to be 20-year retiree, obviously, and so forth. And DPAS would make the decision which one is the best for you. You're not going to lose any money because DPAS will check them both out and apply the entitlement most beneficially based on your gross amount of each entitlement. Okay. All right. And that's just a little thing. We're not going to go into that, but just if you have multiple disabilities and so forth, that we'll go on to the next slide. The Mission Act. You want to open that up, Kate? I know you may or may not be familiar with the Mission Act, but anyway, it talks about caregivers. So that's the benefit out that the VA has for folks and so forth, though. Just remember the word caregivers and so forth. For example, I have a friend who, they have a son that served in Iraq, and he has a VA disability of, well, PTSD big time. I mean, really serious. He saw a lot of action over there. So actually, he came back here and his family's taking care of him, and the VA is paying for that care, if you will. So it's another benefit. That's also what you get. Okay. I put this one in here because a few years back, one of the biggest problems with the VA was the claims backlog. It took months, if not maybe a year or so, to get your claims settled and so forth. They fixed that problem. So now the problem is shown in the next slide. The problem is pending appeals. The appeal is, okay, the VA comes back and rates you for a disability. You're not happy with it. You appeal that. Well, now you go into the pot. And for example, I spoke with my veteran service officer this morning, and she informed me that she has appeals out there pending 2, 3, 4 years. So that's what the problem is now. So the appeal process taking a long time for that to come back with a decision, yes or no. So be ready if you appeal to be put in the wait line. But the benefit is in your appeal process, and the VA rates you in a higher disability, well, guess what, folks? You're going to get a pretty big back pay check, really. I have a friend who got $53,000 in waiting for his appeal, which they approved, and they gave that lump sum, $53,000, and then went on to pay the monthly retirement, the disability payment. Okay. Okay, we don't have to go through this one. This is just to show you how the appeal process goes. Next. I talked about veteran service officers a little bit while ago, and this is just a link to help you find an appropriate veteran service officer. And I don't have listed, but don't forget, every state has veterans, they work for the state, the respective state, but veteran service officers. So you might want to look at the state you live in to find a veteran service group, not just these particular organizations. By the way, you don't have to join these organizations. It says up on the top. They'll help a veteran. Okay. Next. We won't go into the GI Bill because I'm sure that everyone that's out there that's going into retired life has been fully briefed on how this forever GI Bill works. So we will pass that one up. And this, as I said earlier about the VA and dependents and so forth. So remember that you have a life-changing event to make sure you also inform the VA, not just DFAS and DEERS, but also the VA. Okay. Tax time. The states with no income tax. For example, Connecticut here, we do not tax military retirement pay. However, we certainly get our share of taxes. So anyway, that's a benefit for us in Connecticut, but there's some other states out there that do the same, do not tax. Okay. I'm not going to click on it, but if you clicked on that link above and you show your respective state, it'll give you the status of, what your tax base would be and so forth, some of your benefits. All right. Okay, with the DFAS thing, if your state does tax military retired pay, the probability of DFAS taking that payment out automatically is probably not there. So if you so desire for DFAS to withhold state taxes, you need to notify them as delineated in this slide. Okay. This is important for you retirees that are going out into the retired life, I should say. You're going to be working and you're going to be paying taxes on that new job. But guess what? Your retired pay is taxable too. So that first year that you're out there and you have to pay your federal income tax can be a shock to you. So make sure you withhold enough from your military retired pay so that you won't be shocked come tax time. And you can look at that tax estimator to help you with that particular decision. Okay, my friends. Now, we don't want to overlook state benefits. Every state has different benefits. For example, here in Connecticut, for example, we have free tuition to a state college, state university for veterans. We have a Cold War service medal that they award, and many, many others benefits that we have in the state of Connecticut. So you could click on a respective state here after we're done, and you can find out what state benefits you might be eligible for. All right. This is just about like, again, Connecticut, so forth. Oh, I got that property tax exemptions. If you live in Connecticut, if you're listening in Connecticut, and we talked about the DD 214 earlier, when somebody calls my office and say, hey, I can't locate my DD 214, the first question I ask is, did you file a copy with your town or your city hall assessor's office? Why? Because we get a property tax exemption here in Connecticut for being a veteran. Now, other states might do the same, so you want to check that state benefit page to see if they do, and if so, file a copy of DD 214 with the respective state or local office or whatever for taxes. Okay, next. And of course, the National Guard Reserve retirement, a little information about that. When every respective service should receive a letter of the application for retired pay. Now, within the service today, my understanding is the reserves have a heck of a time getting a timely retirement check, if you will. So you may want to check with your appropriate service organization to see what the requirement is for submitting your retired pay form. Okay, next. And why don't we just click on this site down below here? Because I know we have probably a lot of reserves in the audience rather, and take a look at this. And this is where you need to go as a reserve to find out if that's the website. And that'll tell you everything you need to do as a reserve approaching that age 60. My God, time flying. All right, that's good. All right. And this is if you need an ID card. And if you're newly going into retired life, you need a copy 4 of your DD 214 to your ID card issuing office. For those that are retired out there and you need a new ID card, for example, this is going to tell you what you can do, where to go. Okay, ready to go? Just click. And click again. And just remember, if you want to Google this after this presentation, just remember the word rapids, and you'll be able to find this rapid site locator. But that's the way you find local ID card issuing office. And remember, once you're in there, that also updates your DEERS records. Okay. Alrighty. And so forth. This And getting a new ID card for retirees, it's in the process right now, but it's being slowly implemented. And hopefully by next July, we'll see just about all new retirees having the new ID card. And those that are retired can apply at their local ID card for the new one. It looks like anybody has a VA health card right now, it looks similar to that. But the old blue ones are being phased out and coming in with this particular one for the change, if you will. All right, I put this up there because military divorce can affect your retired pay. So next slide. It's the Former Spouse Protection Act, and you got to remember there's what we call a 10, 15, 20 rule, but the 10-year mark is when DFAS gets involved and so forth, and to make sure that the former spouse is going to get her fair share of your retirement pay. The other new thing about it is former spouses may be eligible for continued health care benefit for a period up to 36 months. And it's done by the TRICARE folks, but it's pretty expensive, but at least it's health care for the former spouse. Next spouse, I don't know, but anyway. This is the 20-year thing, but if you lasted 20 years, you're going to get full benefits. 15 years, you're going to get medical care for 1 year and then have to surrender your ID card as a former spouse. In less than 15 years, you don't have a military ID anymore. Okay. All right, cost of living coming up. If you're going to be retiring or have retired this year, for example, you will not get the full COLA this year. You will be reduced and so forth. But the following years, you'll get the full COLA amount. If you go on to the next slide, we'll tell you. It will tell you that right now, according to the Senior Citizens League, it looks like a 1.1% cost of living adjustment will be announced shortly. I would suspect it's going to be announced within the next week or two. But right now, it's running at 1.1%. So next. And just a little slide there to show you what some of the cost of living increases have been over the years. But it really helps that retired pay increase and increase in its value over the years. Okay. And if you're going to be retiring, you can take a look, and this little calculator will give you a pretty good idea how much your retired pay is going to be. Certainly has changed from my 40-year retirement years ago, coming up this November 30th. Next. And of course, you should know that Social Security is not taxed or withheld from your retired pay. So that's one of the good benefits because you've already paid into it. And if you look at the next slide, from 1978 to 2001, for every $300 in active duty basic pay, you're credited with an additional $100 in earning up to a maximum of $1,200 a year for your total benefit when you do cash that in. Okay. And you really don't need nothing to do with that, with the Social Security. That should be automatically figured in, but I always recommend bringing a DD-214 to the Social Security office when you getting close to drawing Social Security. Long-term care, it's a good benefit. I personally have it because, I just heard a report the other day that Alzheimer's, you don't have to be really old. Some people as age early 60 now are being diagnosed with Alzheimer's. So what happens? You got to know that going into our nursing home, Medicare will only pay for the first 100 days. Thereafter, Medicare only pays for the medical expense. That includes the TRICARE. They do not care for your care. So anyway, you want to take a look at the next slide, and off we go. Click. Click. Just gives you an idea how much nursing homes cost per annum in the various parts of the country. I personally have gone through that with my family, and what they call a spend down. So if your family has the money, they pay until there's nothing left, then you go on Title 19. So take a look at the benefit. It's out there for you, and you don't have to be old to get this benefit. And there's no open season. You can enroll anytime. And by the way, while you're still on active duty, you can enroll your parents or have them be enrolled. So take a look at it. Next. Now this is the VA, just to let you know that if you have a 70% disability and so forth, at some point in time, you're going to need nursing care. The VA out there has a benefit, but I just wanted you folks to know that the VA does have certain benefits for long-term care. Next. And military retiree newsletters, most of that are retired know that we have within the Navy the Ship Colors publication. And it does not get mailed to you anymore. You have to download it. And how do you know when it's available? Well, because you have an up-to-date email address with DFAS, DFAS will put out what they call a smart talk, alerting you to the fact that Ship Colors is now available for download. But it's a good periodically. It comes out quarterly, and a lot of good information in there for retirees. And the other services as well have similar publications. All right, next. Okay, next. And just as it, just to let you know that this is some of the things the Congressional Budget Office is looking at, and they're telling Congress, hey, you got to do something. Remember, with this COVID-19 and these stimulus programs we got, and et cetera, and before we went into COVID-19, I think the annual debt was something like, what, $22 trillion? So Congress is probably going to start looking at what can we do to reduce the budget. So that's why it's important, if you go to your next slide, to be watchful for the benefits. And look at this. That's how many veterans serve in Congress right now, in the 116th Congress. Okay. And it's important, whether you're going into retirement or you already retired, create a checklist for your family. Very important. I've had so many spouses, widows come into the office. My husband didn't tell me anything. I don't know anything. I don't know where his papers are. I don't know where this. So this is why it's important to create a little checklist and talk to your family about where everything is, because some point in time it's going to happen. And when it happens, don't leave your family in a state of confusion. Okay, next. And obviously, I put this up there because I am an RIO director, and we are out there to serve you as a retiree and your family. So remember that, and these are some of the things that we get involved with. So if you need our help, check us out. We're at your local bases. There's 28 of us out, 28 RIOs around the world. And that's about it, I think. You know, that's just a locator, so we won't go there, but we will, okay? And as they move forward into your retirement life, it says, for my two colonel sons, they tell me to leave your ego at the door. Remember, you're going to be a civilian now. There's no more sirs and so forth. You're just plain Jane at St. Paul. Okay. Next. And if you don't have a LinkedIn account and you're looking for employment, create a LinkedIn account and put out there, because there are headhunters that are on LinkedIn every day, and they're looking for people that have good records, and most of you retiring from the military have that good record. And you already know that because you're in AUSN, you can stay connected with other military retirees and stay in loop with retirement issues, thanks to Dan Taylor and his legislative team. And that's about it, folks.
Yeah, well, thank you, Paul. That was very thorough. And once again, this presentation is available on our website if you want to review it. We'll also post this video later on the website if you want to watch it again. I think we're a little over time, so probably don't have time for questions at this moment. However, stay tuned to the magazine that's coming out next month. It'll feature some more information from Paul here on things like, you know, what are some benefits you might not be aware of? What are some of the top mistakes retirees make? And I do also want to remind our membership that our annual business meeting is next week. So we encourage you to register for that. Just go to aosn.org and register there. And, you know, we hope to see you there. Particularly Tuesday, we'll have an all membership sort of perspective on what's going on at AUSN and what the future holds. And we're looking forward to seeing you all of you there. So anyways, that's all the time we had. Thanks, Paul, for this presentation and for doing this. And look forward to seeing you all next week.
Okay, thank you. I know I went over my time limit, but I thought it was important. So thank you.
That was great. Yeah, we really appreciate it.